And then I think he's like, "Where is my candy, you son of a bitch?" All right. Welcome to a very special podcast, the podcast where we rewatch all your favorite television shows and discuss them over a bottle of wine or two. I am your host, Patrick M. Dunn, just another human on the internet. You can follow my adventures at patrickmdunn.com or find me on Twitter at patrickmdunn. I am joined here, as always, by Kat Halstead, another human and an author. You can buy her spooky, best-selling YA novel, The Spirit Board, at cathalstead.com. It's the Spirit Board is the story about a Jared Leto-ish demon who haunts young girls via a Ouija board. You will be afraid to turn the lights out at night. So check it out. And can you get it on Amazon too?
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and I'm pretty sure Smashwords. I need to check that.
And I just looked on the Amazon page right now. You can get the book for 99 cents right now.
Yep.
Is it a short story?
It's short. It is not novel length. It's more like a novella. It's on that novella short story cusp.
Okay, so it's not like 10 pages. It's probably like 40-ish pages?
Yeah. 40 to 60, I think.
This is the official book description for everyone out there. Allie thinks that it's just a regular Friday night of hanging out with her cousin Jack and his friends. That is until the Spirit Board comes out, and Jack is insistent that they give it a try to see who they can contact. Mm-hmm. Now, is it a legal issue that you can't say Ouija board?
I don't think so. It's just that there are other boards that don't have the name Ouija board that are the same thing. It's like a general term for Spirit Board.
So Ouija board is just like the Parker Brothers name for it.
Yeah.
And so Spirit Board is like the truth.
Yeah. The Spirit Board's the one you're going to find at some like wacky occult shop in like Salem, Massachusetts or something. Made by Wiccans.
And it's probably like made of animal skin or some kind of sacrifice. And the handheld pusher thing will be made out of like human bone.
God, I hope not.
I don't know, those witches are crazy.
You better be careful. You don't want to mess with them, Pat. Don't mess with them.
So go to Cat. Why can't I say your name right?
I don't know. Oh my God.
It's Kat Halstead.
Mm-hmm.
See, I think I always want to say Halstead.
Because it's only one L.
Yes, but I put the emphasis in the first part, so I say caught.
Caught. My name is not Caught.
So go to cathalstead.com and look for the Spirit Board. You will not regret it. And we are also 3 episodes into our Halloween extravaganza, which every episode throughout the month of October will be focused around Halloween episodes of your favorite shows. We've already done Roseanne. We did the Garfield Halloween special last week. And I apologize for the choppy quality of the last episode. My Wi-Fi router was on its way out, and I lost a chunk of the episode in a freak accident on a night like this.
Oh, no. Oh.
But I assure you that I have a new router, and it's been an hour since I've been on the internet, and it hasn't shut off, so let's hope for the best. And as always, you can find us on iTunes. You can just search for A Very Special Podcast, or you can go to, for right now anyway, houseofplay.tv and click the podcast tab. I got a little flack that it was hard to find. I guess I have to make things more clear.
I didn't think it was that hard to find, but maybe because I knew what I was looking for.
Well, I tweeted the link.
Yeah.
So it's easier to find if you do that.
Yes, and your magical ability to know whenever I leave the house, you post an episode.
So what happens?
Whenever you post a new episode, I have like left the house within the last 5-10 minutes. I don't know how you do this. I am not at home, and I get the tweet alert on my phone, and I'm like, "What's going on? You know, who's tweeting me?" And I check it, and it's you with a new podcast, and I'm like, "Okay, I have to retweet that when I get home so that I can retweet it from all my accounts."
Well, can't you do it from your device, or is it just incoming only?
I can only do one Twitter account for my device.
And which one?
I would do Cat DVS.
Oh, so you have it linked up to another one?
It's just more complicated.
What kind of phone do you have?
I have an LG G2 that I got a few months ago.
Is that like an Android?
Yeah, it's an Android. It's huge.
Oh, because I can have like multiple accounts.
Well, like I have multiple accounts, but I can't. I'd have to look you up to get the retweet because they don't all follow each other.
Ah, okay. I guess that
I
makes
should make
sense.
them follow.
And
because I always make sure I retweet it to the Duckball account, which is the Big Brother blog and podcast that I do. So
excellent, getting out there. But we have the companion Twitter account. It's at Play of House because at House of Play was already taken. So I just mirror imaged it.
Don't you hate it when the account you want is taken?
Yeah, I wanted to Bizarro World it, so that's what I did. Well, because your name is not available on Twitter. I think we established this in a previous episode.
Yeah, we did. We've already talked about that.
So, in case you're new, somebody took her name. I won't talk about the dead girl this time.
Please, I am begging you, do not play with the Ouija board because she is going to come back and just give you shit, I think.
Well, I'm going to donate money to her GoFundMe, so that'll make up for all the it's not like I'm bad-mouthing her. I'm just saying that she's out there. And if you Google your name, she comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And she probably took your Twitter account.
Or one of the millions of others.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like that common of a name, though.
Well, Catherine, Kate, Kat. Yeah, there's only so many ways you can do it.
Yeah, I guess, well, you could have done Kat, middle initial, Halstead. That's what I did.
Yeah, I tried that one.
You can kind of do that Michael J. Fox kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the way I did it for Twitter, at CatDVF.
It's short.
Yep.
Easy
to
remember.
And you know it's me, and then there's no confusion.
And let's just throw it out there that Cat has a K. Not a C.
Yeah.
Not a C. Not like the animal, the name. Anyway, in this week's installment, we watched the second season episode of the modern classic That 70s Show. It's an episode that is just very simply titled Halloween, or Halloween, however you want to pronounce it. And if you want to watch it at home, it's on Netflix, or you can probably buy the DVDs on Amazon.com, but I don't
Amazon probably has the DVDs.
I don't really know who buys DVDs anymore, so just sign up for a Netflix account, you'll have it.
Yeah.
And then you may remember That 70s Show. It was that wildly outrageous breakout hit of the 90s. It aired on Fox. Was it 1998 to 2006?
Yes, I believe so.
And this show is also known for launching the careers of Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, Laura Prepon, and to a lesser extent, Topher Grace and Wilmer Valderrama. And then there was Hyde, who I know nothing about. I just know that his name is Hyde on the show. And that his brother is on Malcolm in the Middle, right?
Yes.
Which I'm sure will be the subject of a future episode at some point. And what's his real name? Christopher
Masterson, I think. I'm double checking. Because I'm having that moment where I'm like, is that the name, or am I just thinking that's the name?
I just call him Hyde.
Oh, Danny Masterson. His brother is Christopher.
Oh, from Malcolm in the Middle?
Yeah.
Oh, I always just called him Hyde. He kind of had
his real name is Danny Masterson.
And has he done anything?
He was recently on the TBS sitcom Men at Work.
Okay. Does he still look the same, or does he look different?
He grew a beard.
Like a long beard, or?
No, like a close beard. Like, It's not wild or anything. It's just like a nice, close, kind of hipster beard.
I'm going to have to find an image. What's his name again? Danny Masterson?
Danny Masterson.
Okay. Oh, yeah. He doesn't have that, like, shaggy hair anymore now. He just kind of... Oh, he's married to Bijou Phillips. Mm-hmm. He was also in Beethoven's Second.
Okay.
And Yes Man. Is that the Jim Carrey movie?
I think so.
It's basically like Liar, Liar, but... Anyway, that 70s show was known for taking the common sitcom formula and then throwing endless 70s era references into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there being a lot of former 70s sitcom stars, like in recurring roles. Like Eric's grandmother was Marion Ross from Happy Days.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there were more, but she's the only one that stands out for some reason right now.
Like, they would pop up in these really random roles. So,
and then,
like, maybe it might be just like a waitress who's played by somebody who was really famous in the 70s. I want to say Valerie Harper maybe played Kitty's sister. Maybe? I might be totally wrong about that.
Do you think Farrah Fawcett was ever on an episode?
I feel like she wasn't.
Well, I imagine they probably at some point would have done a Charlie's Angels.
Yeah, I mean,
parody.
I know they used her poster, the infamous poster.
Yeah, they broke into like fantasy sequences a lot, and they just kind of like flash back to things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mary Tyler Moore was in 3 episodes.
Yeah.
James Avery, who played Uncle Phil on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he was in 3 episodes also. Mm-hmm. Betty White was in a few episodes.
Yes, she played Kitty's mother.
Yes, and Katie Seagal was Hyde's mother for 3 episodes in 99.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she wasn't a 70s star, though. Danny Bonaducci was in 2 episodes.
Okay.
I'm just trying to find one more name.
Oh, I know who was Tim Reed from WKRP in Cincinnati. He played Hyde's biological father.
Oh, for reals?
Yes.
No way. Oh, Barry Williams from the Brady Bunch was in an episode. Yeah, you were right. Valerie Harper was in one. And Wayne Knight, who played Newman on Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
And the show was set in Wisconsin, and the only reason I ever remember that is just from the end of the theme song, when they just go, "Hello, Wisconsin."
Yeah.
Like, to this day, whenever I see or read or even think about Wisconsin, I just mentally shout that out in my mind.
Hello, Wisconsin!
The show focuses around a small group of friends who are teenagers, and they basically just like to hang out in a basement, swill beers, and throw snappy zingers at each other. So basically, it's just your typical sitcom teenager and me in real life. I used to watch the hell out of this show when I first came out. And
same.
Despite them having gone through the trials and tragedies of being a teenager in the 70s, 20 years before I had a wispy mustache, I still related with the crew. Because they did the same things I did, which was just nothing, basically.
Yeah.
Like, it was different than teenagers on other sitcoms who are always out on some, like, wild adventure or involved in a scam or dealing with heavy issues like being addicted to caffeine pills or an eating disorder. Or, if you were Kelly Taylor, a mom who sniffed cocaine and embarrassingly hosted a fashion show. But quality-wise, the show was kind of uneven throughout its run. I kind of bailed early on.
Mm-hmm.
And if I remember correctly, I think they moved the show around the schedule a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
I think they did.
Whenever they wanted to, like, premiere a new show that they wanted to do good, they would just kind of pair it up with it, because they assumed that people would just watch it because it was on after that 70s show.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you remember this, but it had a spin-off, that 80s show.
Yes.
I never saw it, but...
Which is on Hulu.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I thought I saw it on Hulu the other day when I was actually trying to find that 70s show because I thought it was on Hulu and not Netflix. And I was like, I need to bookmark this for later because we might have to have it be a future episode. I don't know anything about it, though.
It's not really memorable. Like, I've watched the whole thing, like, I want to say, like, maybe a year ago, I went back and rewatched, like, all of that 80s show, and it's really not that memorable.
What's the premise of it?
There's brother and sister, and they still live with their dad. Brother works at a record shop, and then there's this new employee who's like a punk girl, and she's got her hair and like the spikes, long spikes.
I saw a pic of her. She had like a mohawk kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like Rancid, the band.
Mm-hmm. And there's like the best friend who rents the apartment above their garage, and the dad's getting divorced from their mom. I mean, it was only like maybe 8 episodes. I don't feel like it was a lot of episodes at all.
Well, we'll reassess it in a few weeks, and maybe we'll check it out, give it a gander. Who knows? But the show also starred who I always thought was the best television father of all time, Red Foreman, who was known to mumble the words "dumbass" to his son and his wayward friends. And actually, this episode even flashbacks to the first time that Red Foreman comes up with the phrase dumbass. So we'll get to that shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the later years of the show, that 70s show, like most of the cast bailed.
Not really.
Well, like the main ones, like Topher Grace, I think, left.
Topher left and Ashton left in the final season, but Ashton was still around. Like Ashton was like only gone for like a handful of episodes.
Well, he was playing the role of Mr. Mom and Mr. Boy Toy in Demi Moore's real life, like personal life, so he probably had things to attend to.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Topher Grace, he started doing movies, like romantic comedies, rom-coms, and then he ruined the Spider-Man franchise. Hamilton? The what?
Win a Date with Tad Hamilton?
Yes, I have that in my notes, actually, because that was the only thing I could think of. And he was Venom in Spider-Man 3, killing the franchise.
Oh, yeah.
That's like why they rebooted it. So the show opens up in the foreman's basement, which I think every episode actually opened up in the foreman's basement.
Probably. Or at least the foreman house.
And the gang is hanging around trying to decide what to do that night.
Because it's Halloween, and they're teenagers in Point Pleasant, Wisconsin.
That's where it took place.
In the late 70s.
And there's a very low-key vibe going on. Like, they're just kind of, they're bored. They know it's Halloween, and they're just trying to think of things to do. So I think they casually mention trick-or-treating. Let's go out trick-or-treating that night.
Well, Eric is like, we're too old to go trick-or-treating. Don't you miss being able to get up in costume and go around the neighborhood and get free candy?
And Fez jumps in. He's like, what? Free candy?
He's like, free candy?
And
what is this?
Well, because Fez is a foreign exchange student. This is probably his first Halloween, I guess.
Probably.
And wherever he came from, I don't think did they ever establish where he came from?
They never established where Fez is from.
Right, so I guess wherever he came from, they didn't have Halloween, which makes sense because it's kind of a dumb holiday. I'm sure
it's very American. The way we celebrate Halloween is very American.
And I'm sure nowhere else in the world does it. Except for Mexico. They seem like they would be totally into it.
Or are they just into the Day of the Dead?
Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of. Maybe Canada too, though, because they're kind of boring. So
yeah, probably Canada.
They kind of copy us on everything they do. So
yeah, Fez discovered, like, Fez is like, what is this trick-or-treating?
So they explain it to him.
Explain it to him.
Beat by beat.
Hilarious.
And then they kind of move on from that subject. And Fez keeps harping back to, wait, free candy? But they're already beyond that, and they're like, well, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre just came out. Maybe we should go see
that. Why not?
And they were like, okay, that works, but that's only an hour and a half long. What should we do after? And then someone's like, well, we can always go to the abandoned elementary school that we used to go to, because that seems like a great idea.
Yeah, that was Eric's idea.
So they basically are still...
I want to point out that was Eric's idea, and Eric is afraid of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Disney cartoon.
Do they establish that in the basement scene, or is it later on? I kind of feel like...
He mentions that when he first saw The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, that he couldn't sleep for a month because he was so scared.
Because They wanted to go to the abandoned elementary school and tell ghost stories, right? Was that it? Well, I remember I was always trying to get my basement to be a happening place, just like the foreman's basement. I think I was partly inspired by that show. I think at one point we had a couch down there and an old black and white television set. And it was hooked up to like bunny ears. It was like over the air. And on Friday nights, I'd beg my only two friends to come over, and we'd watch Unsolved Mysteries, and then 2020 if the topic was interesting. And then I think at one point we actually squeezed a ping pong table into my basement, but the sound of the ping pong ball bouncing back and forth irritated my parents upstairs, so they did away with that.
Yeah, I had a basement in my house in New Jersey. We had like finished basement, and my mom was always trying to get it like set up so that we could hang out down there. And I think we did it a couple times when I had like slumber parties and stuff, but when I moved to Colorado, I lived in an apartment, so we didn't have a basement.
Yeah, because if you have children, if you could just shove your kids into another section of the house, that is fucking wonderful.
If you can just be like, go down there for like the next 2 hours,
like
fabulous.
You won't hear them unless something very bad happens. Like, you'll hear screaming, but you won't hear general noises. Like, you won't hear them talking. But if one of them got accidentally impaled by a pipe, then you might hear it. But at that point, it wouldn't matter. And then Fez. So let's go back to Fez. So he's an exchange student. And for some reason, because in my mind, because I've had an exchange student before, and they only stick around for like a few months. You don't have them for a long time. And he's there for the entire duration of the series, which is basically like the whole 70s, or like... So did they ever establish why he stuck around longer?
Well, I think after graduation, he married Lori so that he could stay in the country and get his green card. And then Red had a heart attack. But I don't know why he stuck around for so long. Like, his exchange parents or whatever, like, barely seemed to pay attention to him unless they caught him with pornography or rock and roll.
Did they ever show the host parents?
Yes.
Was it stunt casting?
Oh, gosh, I don't remember. I think it... Oh, gosh.
Didn't he always kind of remind you of, like, a teenage version of Balky from Perfect Strangers?
Yes.
Like...
Except not as cool.
Like, that was kind of, like, the accent they were going for. Like, he could have been Mexican. He could have been... What was Balky? From, like... He was from a fake country, but it was, like...
He was from Mipos.
Mipos had goats, I remember.
And sheep.
Sheep? Was it sheep and goats? Now, meanwhile, while the kids are hanging out downstairs, upstairs, the foreman parents, Kitty and Red, they're answering the door for trick-or-treaters, and Kitty's handing out, was it Raisinets that she's handing out to kids?
She's handing out those little Sun-Maid boxes of raisins. Now, I have a question about this, because this didn't make any sense to me, but the kids were coming to their back door.
You know, I didn't pick up on that, but I can definitely envision the layout of the foreman's house. Now, their back door, like, it went down the long driveway to where the garage was, and then it was like kind of off a walkway. So you would have to do a lot of walking and go into someone's backyard. And if you had to do that during trick-or-treat night, I just would have given... I'm like, you know what? There's 17 other houses I can go to.
Yeah. I just thought it was so weird because she had the whole thing decorated for trick-or-treaters in the backyard.
And so the kids get pissed that it's not Milky Way bars or any other kind of candy, so they throw eggs at the house.
Well, who wants raisins? You don't go trick-or-treating for raisins.
No. Those are like, if you got home, you basically just threw out all the things you didn't like.
Like, that's the thing you put in the pile of stuff. Okay, I'll eat that later. And then you never touch it. And
yeah, like,
it ends up in your lunchbox in 3 weeks.
Like, maybe if your mother's uncle comes over, you'll give it to him if it's a week from now. Otherwise, it's going in the trash. So then, Red gets furious at the thought of cleaning up eggs in the morning. And Kitty goes into a black and white flashback of their first Halloween in the house they are currently living in. And Kitty, she's preparing for a Halloween party. Her mother-in-law is there, who they establish they don't get along.
Does anybody really get along with their mother-in-law?
I imagine no.
I just don't see it.
Maybe at first, but then as soon as Kitty starts to settle in, the mother-in-law, she, like, what's Monster-in-Law? Is that the Jennifer Lopez movie?
Yes.
That's what it quickly turns into. Like, at first you're like, love her, and then after that it's just like you're secretly plotting to destroy her.
Well, I think it's like as soon as there's a ring on somebody's finger, all bets are off. It's like, oh, well now.
So Kitty and Red, I imagine, are married at this. Well, it was the 50s, so like you didn't just move into a house.
They were married. And of course, the mother-in-law, Mrs. Foreman, just like let herself in. She's in there, she's smoking. Kitty's trying to put food out, and she's all snide. She's like, oh, that's a lot of food. Do you really think you have that many friends?
Oh, because they were having a Halloween party.
Yeah.
Now, Mrs. Foreman, the mother-in-law, she was smoking, but they didn't actually like show the cigarette. You might have seen it for a second, but you mostly just saw like smoke billowing up from underneath the camera.
Yeah.
Which was a good nod to that era when everybody smoked, but it probably was that time where you weren't allowed to show it on TV anymore.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of funny. And then,
like, it's major to see a character smoke on network television.
like, you'll see it on Mad Men or on cable, but...
Yeah, like, okay, when the character of Caesar Faison came back to General Hospital, it was, like, so weird to see him smoke his cigars, because I can't tell you the last time I saw a character on, like, a network show smoke anything.
Is he a villain?
Yeah, he's a villain.
I'm sure, like, I feel like they give passes to villains.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know what, that person's bad.
I saw something on Twitter, they're like, we had to get special permission from the censors to show that.
Funniest thing about it, though, is if you watch, like, an old episode of I Love Lucy, they're always smoking.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not like prop cigarettes, it's like actual cigarettes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, one of the last characters on television that you probably saw smoking was the guy on The X-Files, the cigarette smoking man. Mm-hmm. And even then you knew he was a bad guy and that he'd probably eventually die. So that's how like you kind of like were okay with it. You're like, you know what, he's a bad guy. They're going to kill him, so it's either that or cigarettes will get him.
Cigarettes are deadly.
So Kitty's preparing for the party, the Halloween party that night, and her phone rings. And she runs over to answer it, and it's her doctor calling her at like 8 o'clock at night on Halloween to tell her that she's pregnant. Which I guess probably happened a lot back, because you didn't have like pregnancy tests that you buy at like CVS for $5.
Yeah, no. They didn't have home pregnancy tests. She had to go to the doctor, have like a blood test of some sort.
And then you probably have to wait like weeks.
I don't think weeks. I think maybe like a day or two.
And then they would call you at 8 p.m. at night on Halloween, like he didn't have things to do. And Kitty tries to keep it a secret from her mother-in-law, but she somehow knows.
Well, it's a phone call from the doctor. Kitty's all excited about the phone call and then plays it off like it was a wrong number. She's not an idiot.
And then, so she's like, don't tell Red. I'll tell him in his own time. And then at that moment, Red comes busting in with his friend Frank.
Yeah.
They're in their Halloween costumes. I think Frank was a hobo, and I can't remember what Red was.
Red was like Zorro.
Oh, that's what he was. Yeah, he was like the 1930s version of Zorro. So they're acting immature. They're carrying like huge cases of beer. They're all excited for the party. They're talking about getting wrecked, shit-faced. And then I think there's like a fart joke too.
Yes. Okay, I want to say that Frank is 100% Red Foreman's Kelso.
Is Frank ever in the show again?
I don't think so.
So he was just kind of like a one-off?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was totally a Kelso. So they do like that like pull your finger kind of joke. And then like Red chuckles and he grabs that case of beer and they run off into the other room. And then there's the infamous cutscene. All right, so then we flash back from Red and Kitty's past. We flash to the future, which is our past. Mm-hmm. And I think this is the scene where they're trick-or-treating, and Fez is dressed up as the Adam West version of Batman, experiencing trick-or-treat for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the gang is in the background, bored, because, well, they stopped caring about trick-or-treating many years earlier.
Yeah.
And at his first house, Fez gets an apple instead of candy, and he's upset.
Yeah.
And hopefully someone warned him about the razor blade and apple urban legend.
That's totally what I was thinking about the whole time of that.
I was just like, yeah, they should probably throw that out.
Yeah. Like, why would you give an apple to a trick-or-treater? I just don't get that.
And it wasn't even a candy apple. It was like an actual apple, like a red, delicious apple. And then I think he's like, where is my candy, you son of a bitch?
Yes.
He looked very happy trick-or-treating for the first time. Like, he was just beyond excitement.
There are, like, 3 things that Fez loves in this world. Porn, beer, and candy.
I would probably throw Jackie in there, too.
Yeah, probably.
But he'd probably take porn, beer, and candy over Jackie, I imagine.
Well, he doesn't think he has a shot with Jackie.
Doesn't he eventually... Don't they have a short fling at some point in the series?
No, they end up together.
Do they?
Yes.
I've never seen the end of the series, so I can't really tell you what happens.
Yes. Instead of Jackie ending up with Hyde, or even Kelso, she ends up with Fez.
You know what? Good for them. Now, in the final episode of that 70s show, did they ever, like, flash forward to, like, the future and kind of explain what happens to everybody, or does it just end?
No, the clock strikes midnight and it's done.
It's 1980?
It's 1980, the show's over.
All right, that's a good ending, because they might want to revisit it at some point, and they haven't quite dreamed up what they wanted to do. One thing I do have to know, does Red Foreman survive the 70s?
He makes it to 1980.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
I'm like 99% sure, unless like something happens when we don't see him in those few minutes before midnight.
Well, I just wanted to know if he died before the show ended, because I don't think I could have handled that. Like, if you find out he eventually dies in like 87, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Totally fine. So then we get the That 70s gang. They're now at the movies. They're seeing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and you can hear the sounds of murder and mayhem in the background. No one is fazed by it, except for Kelso.
Like, no, not even like the people behind the group are fazed. They're all just like, okay. There's like no reaction, which I find weird, because when I watched the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the first time, no one in the room was just sitting there like, okay, whatever. We were all kind of like, oh my god.
I think, don't they run through each cast member? So, like, Donna and Eric are having a conversation.
Yeah.
Hyde doesn't really care. Jackie doesn't even care. And then they cut to Kelso.
Jackie's like, it's Texas. They all have guns.
Yeah. Kelso is, like, covering his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, scared shitless.
Kelso's the only one freaked out.
Were you scared by any movies? Is there any movies that actually had, like, frightened you?
Actually, the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre kind of freaked me out a little bit. The one with Jessica Biel.
I remember it coming out, but I don't think I actually had seen it.
Okay, my roommate, Kelly, and I went with my friend Josh on, like, a Sunday afternoon. And, okay, this movie's rated R. We're in the theater, there's a bunch of adults, and there's this one family with, like, their 4 and 5-year-olds. And they got their kids running up and down the aisle during this movie. But, like, we were kind of freaked out, like, it was kind of gross, it was kind of weird, like, we were kind of scared, but kind of stayed with us a little bit. And, like, the next day, my friend Josh and I were in class, and the classroom we were in was in the theater building. And so the prop shop is right next door to this classroom, so they have saws in there. And in the middle of class, I kid you not, a saw went off, like, right by the wall, and Josh and I both jumped out of our seats, like, ah! And everybody else looked at us like we were insane. But it was the both of us that did it, so at least it wasn't just me.
Did they have meat hooks in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake? Because I remember they were, in the original, they hung a girl up on meat hooks.
I think so.
That was kind of creepy. But I was always really into horror films, though, even
Yeah.
at a young age. When I was growing up, the original A Nightmare on Elm Street, have you ever seen it?
Yes, not for a long time though.
The original A Nightmare on Elm Street was always one of my favorite movies growing up. And
Hmm.
then I loved just about every other horrible slasher film of that era, including the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, and obviously Friday the 13th.
Hmm.
In fact, I saw both The Muppets Take Manhattan and Jason Takes Manhattan in theaters. Can you guess what movie I was horrified at and had to leave the movie because I was screaming?
Oh God, I'm afraid to say the Muppets Take Manhattan.
Yes. Yes, The Muppets Take Manhattan on the big screen scared the bejesus out of me.
Why?
Well, I always liked the Muppets. I didn't mind watching the Muppets at home on a small TV screen where it looks like I was bigger than them.
Hmm.
But if you brought me into a small theater at, I don't know, I was probably like 5 years old when the movie came out, then you shut the lights off and have all the Muppets displayed on a large screen and have them look 100 times bigger than what I was used to, you are bound to be a screaming child.
Okay, I can kind of see that. Yeah.
So I had to be dragged out of the theater. I remember I was with my father and my older cousin, who was the one who really wanted to see Muppets Take Manhattan. And then as soon as the movie started and they showed like Kermit or Miss Piggy, whoever was in the first scene, I just lost it. Because, you know, you're used to seeing like Kermit on like a small screen, and now he's gigantic and he's walking around. So it was frightening.
Do you still have this fear?
No, I really don't care anymore. It was just that one time I saw it.
Just that one time.
Yeah, now I'm totally into the Muppets. I recently rewatched The Muppets Take Manhattan, and I was expecting to be afraid, but it never happened. Now, the only movie that ever really, really, truly frightened me was The Exorcist.
Uh-huh.
And that's only because I watched it in its entirety for the first time when I was 12 years old. And it also happened to coincide with the first time I was ever home alone at night, entirely on my own.
Oh my God.
So I always had the privilege of having a TV and a VCR in my bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was a great idea to rent it from my local video store, The Exorcist. And I waited until my entire family left. Like, I'd always seen bits and pieces of it on cable over the years, but
Yeah.
I was always surrounded by protective adults. But watching it solo was another experience, especially when it was nighttime.
Yeah.
After the
Everything's
movie...
more freaky at night.
Now, I think you told me earlier you've never seen The Exorcist.
I haven't.
So it's basically, to summarize really quickly, it's just a young girl. She's probably like 10, 11, or 12 years old. Her mom's an actress, like a stage actress in London.
Mm-hmm.
She becomes possessed by a demon named Pazuzu.
Okay.
And they have to call in a priest to exorcise this demon. And I guess Pazuzu has been haunting this priest for years.
Okay.
And there's just so much horrifying imagery and mayhem that I can't even describe it. But
What year did The Exorcist come out?
it's like mid-70s.
Okay, so the possessed baby storyline on soap is probably done because The Exorcist was such a popular movie.
I believe that is based on Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, okay.
And the official IMDb summary of the movie is: when a teenage girl is possessed by a mysterious entity, her mother seeks the help of two priests to save her daughter.
Okay.
Now, after this movie ended, I was shaking. I was under my covers, convinced that I was going to become possessed by Pazuzu. Plus, it didn't help that at the beginning of the movie it says based on true events.
Oh God, I hate when they say that crap.
And I was like, what the? Well, it was probably like something that might have had happened.
Yeah.
But I read it as this fucking happened like scene for scene. And it's only like 9 o'clock at night. And I forget where my parents went, but they weren't going to be home until like 11:30, like after Saturday Night Live time.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a desk in my room. So I grabbed my desk chair and I perched it under the doorknob so like the door won't open, just in case Pazuzu had entered my household and got the sick idea to take over my soul.
Oh my goodness.
And now, because I had been watching the movie all night and I've like been drinking soda and eating popcorn, I had to pee really bad. So I held it in as long as I could, and you eventually hit the point where you can't hold it in anymore. So I had to leave my bedroom. I remember like removing the chair away from the doorknob, putting it on the side, and then I had to go down this hallway, this long hallway. But I didn't want to walk down the hallway with my back to the darkness either way. So I backed up against the wall and then just kind of like shimmied down the wall so I could see both directions. So I shimmied into the bathroom, and as soon as I got in there, I checked the linen closet for demons. Then I checked the, behind the shower curtain, and very relieved that I didn't see Pazuzu lurking there.
Yeah.
Now, if I had opened the shower curtains and saw a Jared Leto spirit / demon, it might not have been so bad.
You say that now.
Well, I mean, I guess you could have the guise of Jared Leto, but he could have the demonic soul of Pazuzu.
Mm-hmm.
My parents eventually came home that night, and I had never been so relieved to see adults in my life. And of course, I didn't tell them about my panic attack. Now,
because you get in trouble.
Yeah. And they would never allow me to stay home alone again. Now, this is where the story gets weirder. Like, it goes on. There's more to it. So now, like, at school, I had a classmate who was really into heavy metal music. Mm-hmm. And there was always these weird rumors that he might have been, like, a devil worshiper.
Oh, but of course.
And in reality, he probably just really liked Metallica. But stereotypes got the best of everybody. And for reasons unknown, I was convinced that he might have some strange connection with the dark side and was able to communicate with Pazuzu or some other demon, maybe even possibly of the Jared Leto variety, or another demon that I've never heard of, and that my schoolmate would have the ability to possess me because he had found out that I just watched The Exorcist, and he knows that I know. But if you think about it, if you just think about it, I believed that another 12-year-old kid in my school had the power to quantum leap inside of me and possibly control me, idle hand style. You know, the Devon Sawa comedy horror classic? And then he could make me do weird things like murder, or even worse. Like, this was my fear, that like he could possess me and that he would convince me to show up to school naked with no clothes on. Like I thought this kid would use his powers of evil for that purpose. And I'm not lying, like I really believe this.
Oh my god.
And like I said, it was part Quantum Leap, part The Exorcist, and then what was that Martin Short movie where the guy shrinks down and goes inside him? Inner Space. So I imagined all those properties together. No wonder why I have horrible anxiety today.
Oh my god.
Now,
how do you get out of bed and like go and live in the world?
I don't know. Wine?
Yeah, probably.
Wine and podcasts and Howard Stern. So somehow I managed to exorcise this memory from myself. And now, like a few years went by. Now, do you remember like in 1998 or 1999 or what, they re-released The Exorcist in theaters?
Uh-huh.
So it must have been like the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, something like
That's
that.
the only thing I can conclude. So it was like the 25th anniversary of The Exorcist. And my friends and I decided to go see it in theaters. I had completely forgotten about this experience. Like, it was out of my mind. Mm-hmm. Midway through the movie, all these memories came flooding back to me. And I got so physically ill, like literally physically ill, that I had to leave the auditorium. I went into the bathroom and I vomited Regan from Exorcist style into one of the stalls.
Oh my god.
And I was in there for so long that one of my friends came in to check on me. And then I hid. Like, I pulled my legs up in the stall. Like, I didn't want him to see me because I heard him calling my name. Like, making sure I was in there. And I can't remember the excuse that I made up. But I sure as hell wasn't going to admit that I was vomited in a public bathroom because a 25-year-old movie may remember the time that I thought a kid from school had possessed me.
And you weren't hanging out with that kid from school at this point, were you?
No, he wasn't like my friend or anything. He was just like a classmate. Like I might have like did a project with him at one point in time. Like I knew who he was. Now, as a funny epilogue to the story, his name occasionally pops up on Facebook as like someone you may know that you want to reconnect with. And I am so quick to hit like the X button so he goes away. And now that I just said that, I'll probably get like a friend request like within a week.
You'll probably be like in the drugstore and turn around and there he is.
I have been spying on his profile, so I think he lives like kind of far away, so I don't think that's going to happen. But I am now convinced that I'll get the friend request, so I'll keep you all posted if I get it.
Yeah, just wait until your next high school reunion.
We already had one, he didn't go. Alright, so back to that 70s show. Now, we cut back from the movie theater scene, and now the gang breaks into their old grade school, which has been abandoned.
Yeah, it's their old grade school.
It's been abandoned due to a fire that happened. Mm-hmm. And the fire may or may not have been caused by Hyde. I think they alluded that he might have done it.
Well, I think it's that the others think Hyde was the one to do it, but he was out of town that week.
Well, that's his alibi.
Yeah.
So this is where I thought they got the idea to tell scary stories, and then Eric Foreman wanted to tell the story of Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
And I think, did he start telling it, and then like a gust of wind blew a window shut?
He started to tell it, and Fez goes, Eric, this story isn't funny. You know how I know? Because Michelini, or whatever he called Michael that wasn't Michelle, like some kind of feminized form of Michael, wasn't scared. Because it was after he finished telling a ghost story. This is apparently the ghost story according to the trivia and IMDb. And it's about Lydia's Bridge in Jamestown, North Carolina. The story goes that Lydia was killed at the bridge by a drunk driver on her prom night sometime in the 1950s. She and her date had apparently gotten into a fight, and she was left out by the bridge. Men driving alone under the bridge have reported seeing her there and picking her up. She asks for a ride home, and they take her there. When they drop her off, she leaves her scarf in the car. The men get out to bring her scarf back, and when her mother answers the door, the man is informed that her daughter died in the car accident many years ago. Reportedly happened to many men over the years. I think Are You Afraid of the Dark did a story like this.
I have heard this story before, and I just looked it up to confirm it, and I just got the chills reading it. Now, there's a similar story. So I live near Route 44 in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. It's like 2 miles away from where I am right now. Now, they say that Route 44 is the most haunted roadway in New England.
Really?
And there's supposed to be this man, like a hitchhiker with red hair, and people have reported, like, you'll be driving, like, alone or whatever in the middle of the night, and he'll, like, run on the road and, like, flag you down, and then he'll, like, try to get in your car. Like, people have stopped to, like, because they're freaked out, they pull over, they stop, and he, like, tries to get in the car, like, he tries to break in, but he can't. For some reason, he can't get inside, and everyone just talks about how, like, the horror of it. Like, I've seen it on one of those, like, the Travel Channel, like haunted destination shows. Mm-hmm. And I drive down there a lot at night, like, because it's a main road, and it's only 9:30 at night where I am right now. If I went down there probably wouldn't be any cars on there, and that's just all I ever think of. I'm like, I'm never stopping. I don't care what I see. I'm just going to keep going. If something jumps in front of me, if a guy jumps in front of me with red hair, I'm just going to drive because I'm going to go through him because he's not real.
Yeah.
And he might be Pazuzu and he might possess me. So, well, if I drive through him and then, like, he's lined up to where I am, and I drive through him. Oh, I didn't even think of that, because I could become possessed by him just by driving through him.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Just another thing to worry about. Like, I'm more worried about that than Ebola.
Well, I think that might actually be the bigger thing to be afraid of, is a ghost attaching itself to you.
Oh, don't eat, yeah. I don't... Funny story is, when I was watching this episode of that 70s show last night, I was because last night was the season premiere of American Horror Story, The Freak Show on FX.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever they went to a commercial break, I had my laptop with me, so I just fired up Netflix. And I was just watching this episode. So my notes are confusing because I also have American Horror Story notes in here because I'm going to be doing something with that later on.
Okay, that's why your notes are 4.5 pages long.
Yes, probably. Like this... But there's a part... Okay, so there's a scene coming up shortly in that 70s show where they... where Jackie starts attacking Hyde.
Mm-hmm.
And they make it look like that she's, like, brutally attacking him, like a horror scene. They only show... Like, they just show the shadow on the walls.
Yeah.
When I was watching that, as soon as the scene ended and American Horror Story came back, there was, like, a brutal murder scene on American Horror Story that was eerily similar to that. So my notes get kind of like confused around here.
Oh, man.
So I'm like, wait, did that happen on that 70s show? Like, was there a brutal murder, or was that American Horror Story?
There was no brutal murder.
I don't know, you never know.
No, they were in their old school, and they go... Michael says something to piss Jackie off, or does something to piss Jackie off, because that's what Kelso does.
Well, no. Well, what happens is someone's telling a ghost story, and there's a gust of wind, and the window, like, shuts.
Oh, yeah.
So Michael Kelso gets scared, and he, like, pushes Jackie and runs out of the room.
Because that's what Kelso does.
And he's the only... Like, everyone else realized that it was probably just the window closing because of the wind.
Yeah.
But Michael runs out of there, and he realizes what happens, and he comes back in. And Jackie gets really mad at Kelso. And I think, well, she calls like a girls' meeting with Donna. She's like, Donna, let's go. We have to have a girls' meeting. Because I think that's what they always did.
Yeah, that's... Well, because Donna's the only other girl, and so...
Well, until Rhonda came along.
Oh, God, big Rhonda.
So Jackie and Donna, they leave the room. And they have some kind of girl talk. And... They end up coming across everyone's permanent records, which have somehow survived the fire. I guess they established that the school burned down, and there was some kind of fire, and the permanent records survive. There was probably like a fireproof safe, maybe.
Yeah, there's probably like a metal file cabinet or something.
But they looked like they were perfectly intact, so you would think that someone would have gone through the school to see like what survived, and they would have like moved that information over to the new school. But
yeah, you would think they would at least go, oh, hey, we had those in a metal case. Let's see if they burned, or apparently not.
But they might have decided to start fresh for everybody. And they start reading the permanent records aloud to everybody. So I guess Jackie's middle name is Beulah.
Yes.
Which I didn't really see anything wrong with that. I mean, you could be named after like a family member. Who knows?
People are weird about their middle name.
She gets really offended by it, and like she probably if she was rabid, she would have like scratched people.
Yeah, probably.
And she probably did scratch she probably scratched Hyde. Like it just happened off screen. Actually, she ends up beating Hyde, but that comes in a moment. So then they find out that Kelso was kept back a grade, and he's actually 18 years old, and he was pretending he was 17.
Yeah.
And everyone gets pissed off because the drinking age was 18 at this point in time, and he could have been buying beer for everybody. Like,
Kelso, come on. Like, I'm actually amazed Kelso kept this secret. Because it's Kelso, he can't keep a secret.
And Jackie defends him for some reason, right?
I think she does until they realize that he could buy them beer.
Oh, and then she turns on him?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, something happens that makes Jackie blurt out that she knows about the Donna and Hyde
Oh,
kiss.
Donna said something snotty about Kelso, and then Jackie's like, Hyde and Donna kissed. And Donna's like, Hyde kissed me. I did not kiss him.
So I can't remember the exact chronology of the show, but from what I remember, is it the season 1 finale where Donna and Eric smooch for the first time?
I think that's when they decided to be boyfriend and girlfriend.
Okay, so the Donna and Hyde thing happened before that?
Yeah, like, I think Hyde had a crush on Donna, Eric had a crush on Donna, and Donna liked Eric, but Hyde was always, like, making these weird little moves to get to Donna, but she was always like, oh, you're my friend, here's some socks. Merry Christmas.
So it was like a season 1 Xmas episode?
Yeah.
Okay. And then it's also brought up that Jackie and Fez may have had like a quick thing going on.
I think Jackie tried to use Fez to make Kelso jealous, and so they kissed. And apparently Fez isn't a bad kisser.
Okay, yeah, because they were like, someone said something like, I won't tell you that Fez is the better kisser than Kelso, and then Jackie like loses her shit. Is it Hyde that says it? Is that why she beats him?
No, it's Donna.
Okay. Why
Donna breaks the girl code trust thing that she and Jackie have going.
So why does Jackie beat Hyde?
Hyde says something snarky to Jackie, like he always does. I think it was about Beulah, middle name.
So he called her Beulah.
Yeah.
So they basically decide that at this point that the permanent records are evil.
Yeah.
And they're like, we have to destroy them. And someone gets the idea to burn them, I guess, but they decide instead they're going to bury them in the woods.
Yes, because they've already lived through one fire. Exactly. They think if they survived one fire, they'll survive another.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. But I mean, you could have just burned the pieces of paper and they would have been done with. Unless they have, like, the soul of Pazuzu, who knows?
Which I don't think they did.
Well, I guess now the permanent records are buried deep in the woods, and Hyde comes out of the bushes and he, like, walks over to them for some reason, like where it's buried, like to the grave.
In his hands.
And then there's like a Carrie moment where like the hands come out of the ground, holding the records, and then he screams, and then he wakes up and he's like laying on the foreman couch.
Well, because he stole Fez's sugar babies, and they did not react well with him. He had a nightmare.
Is that what they blamed it on?
That's what he blamed it on, yeah.
Well, it was probably like bad beer that Kelso bought, or the pot, which I completely brushed over that they do that like turntable.
The circle.
The circle. Did they do that in this episode? I can't remember.
Yeah, they did it when they were in the school telling scary stories, and the girls were out of the room.
Now, this is implying that they are smoking pot, but they can't actually say it, or they can't show it. But you can see them giggling or laughing, and the cameras like flip back, and their eyes are always like puffy.
And they do it so that it's like the camera is always like right behind or right in front of whoever's getting the next
puff.
Or the whatever.
I think sometimes you see, like, don't you see smoke from underneath?
You do.
I think it
actually, that reminded me on the jack-o'-lantern when Hyde wakes up from his nightmare. Like, part of the jack-o'-lantern, it looks like a pot leaf.
I'll have to go back and look at that.
Yeah.
So, how did you like this episode of That 70s Show?
Like, I thought it was a nice kind of, like, simple Halloween episode. It wasn't, like, in-your-face Halloween, like you'll get with a Roseanne or a Home Improvement. And I kind of feel like it fit with the characters. Because, like, they're teenagers, they don't really want to get dressed up, but there's not really, like, anything else to do. And that was kind of like me once I got to that point. Like, oh, what am I going to do? Am I going to go see a scary movie, or am I going to go watch Rocky Horror Picture Show on VH1 or something?
Or am I going to go to an abandoned building and have lackluster adventures?
Yeah.
So until next time...